Rube, sometimes I just look at the standings and I go, "Oh yeah, the Eagles are 12-1."
Yeah, you kind of take it for granted. They just win so routinely and regularly. 12-1.
It's a boring, really good team.
It is like we sit around like talking about what stories to write. Like, how many times can you write they're good?
Yeah, and like we're just oh yeah, the D line's still really good. Oh yeah, the
O line's great.
quarterback's an MVP.
Running backs on pace for 1,400 yards. What?
Ho hum.
They lead the league in sacks. Like, there's nothing to complain about. Now even special teams is
driving
playing
us nuts.
Special teams is playing well finally, and it's like nothing to complain about.
Yeah, this is the Eagle Eye Podcast.
Well, we'll find something.
Yeah, we certainly will. We're doing this podcast together, so we'll find some stuff. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. We're live here at Rivers Casino, Philadelphia, just behind the sports book. A lot to talk about, Rube. This team is good, and they keep signing Pro Bowlers. How about that? They add a couple of new pieces to replace some injured players. So we'll get into that a little bit. We want to talk a little. We are going to talk about how good the D-line is and just what they're doing because it is really special. We'll take an early look at the Bears a little bit later. And we want to talk just about, how the Eagles are dealing with being so good because there is an art to that. But let's start with the injuries and the replacements. The good news, so we'll start off with that. Lane Johnson, he told us after the game he didn't think it was significant. That seems to check out. They expect to have him going forward.
And that's huge.
Obviously huge. I mean, still one of their best players playing at a really high level. Reed Blankenship, it looks like they kind of dodged a bullet. It doesn't look like, when he went down, it looked like, that might be an ACL or something really significant. Looks like that isn't the case, but he might miss some time. And then Aaron Sipas, somewhat significant, at least enough that they needed to bring in a new punter, and they did. And they also brought in kind of a new safety. Anthony Harris, Brett Kern, welcome to the squad.
Anthony Harris was here over the summer and played here just the 1 year, right? Last year. I think he started this year with Denver, got released. It was interesting, though, because he got cut, and then they brought him on the practice squad.
For less than a week, and then they both sides decided.
That's not what he was looking for. But now the practice squad's appealing to him because he doesn't have any other opportunity. So it makes sense. He knows the defense. I'm sure he keeps himself in good shape. Just being around.
Well, he was just on a team a week ago.
Yeah, but I mean, he hasn't played in a while. But he's better than nothing, I guess.
Yeah, and
Marquise Blair might have been the next option.
And he at least knows the system, so you'd have to imagine it's going to be pretty smooth. Him coming back in, and look, some things have probably changed in the few months he's been gone, but smart enough guy will figure it out. And it just adds a little bit of depth there because they were really lacking. And the Eagles have been lucky this year in that their injuries haven't been – they've had a few injuries here and there, but it hasn't been to like one position. This is the first time we've seen a couple of significant injuries at one spot, a spot that they didn't really have a ton of depth to begin with. So now you have to replenish it a little bit.
Yeah, and, I think Kayvon has some strengths to his game. I mean, he's probably a better tackler than Anthony Harris, but as far as coverage, Anthony Harris is a guy. I mean, he's a veteran. He's started 60 games in the NFL, and I think he led the league in interceptions 1 year.
He had 6 back in 2019.
But didn't make the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, I bet you that still bugs him.
Yeah, because he's probably running out of opportunities.
Yeah, I would think so.
Probably not going to make it from the practice squad. But I wonder if anyone's made the Pro Bowl only as a practice squad elevation.
That'd be hard to do. 3
games would be hard to do. Anyway, can we just delete that, please? No, it's a smart move, and it's good to know that no bridges were burned when he left here the first time. That's important. That's why you treat people like they should be treated, and on the way out, you handle it the right way. And I know that's one message that coaches and GMs have to guys that they release. It's like, you might be back here. And certainly Howie always likes bringing guys back. He's done that. He's done that forever. But it does make sense. This is a guy who knows the coaches, speaks their language, knows the players. He's played with Epps. He's got a background here. He knows the defense. So it's a smart move.
Yeah, and he's signing to the practice squad. So, I mean, he'd have to be elevated to play, but you don't bring him in to just keep him on the practice squad. And, I would expect as long as he looks good this week, I think he's probably going to start against Chicago. That'd be my guess.
I mean, the only option is Kayvon.
Kayvon, or I guess you have some other options. You could
Josiah
Scott
Yeah, I
would
don't
be
think.
the other one.
Yeah, that's not ideal. And I like Josiah; he plays hard, but I think Anthony Harris makes the most sense, and as long as he's physically ready to go.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense from a positional standpoint too, because he can play the deep safety role, whereas Kayvon, that's not going to be his strength.
No.
His strength is going to be
In the box.
In the box. So, they last year it was funny. They ended up kind of having two guys who play that free safety role in Harris and McLeod, and then Epps came in. But they can keep that with Epps now. They can kind of play him in that box role and let Harris kind of roam a little bit the way they were letting CJ do it.
Now, I mean, the Bears barely throw the ball, so that's another factor. I mean, they don't have a receiver with 500 yards, so I think stopping the run is going to be. I mean, especially with that quarterback, he runs for 200 yards a game sometimes. He's not really a dual threat quarterback though, because he's not a great passer.
They don't have a ton of weapons up there.
No, he doesn't. I just like saying equanimous St. Brown. It's fun to say. But yeah, Justin Fields, he might have more rushing yards than passing yards.
Yeah, good tight end in Cole Kmet, but
Cole Kmet's decent. He's got 408 yards. But yeah, there's not a lot of firepower there.
Yeah, and we'll get into the Bears a little bit later. But yeah, I'm on board with the Anthony Harris signing, and if he's cooked and he doesn't have anything left, all right. I mean, it's not like they had to pay a ton or he's taking a spot from someone else who would really help them.
And 2 more games at a minimum for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. It's a shame. I mean, the timing didn't work out. You get him back, but
it did work out in that Anthony Harris got released.
Yeah, that did.
On December 6th.
He did not have a great training camp. I don't think I put him on my roster on my 53.
Neither of us did.
Yeah. He didn't have a good camp, but he's a veteran and he's a guy that he'll be in the right place.
At least there won't be MAs out there.
Yeah.
He'll do what he's supposed to do. And he's not as gifted physically. He's not going to make big plays probably like CJ did, but hey, just you don't want mistakes. And we saw Kayvon had one in that game. So if you can at least avoid that, you feel pretty good about it. And then the punter, can we talk about the punter?
I think Anthony Harris made a big play his last snap as an Eagle, right? I think it was his coverage that let Rodney get the interception.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he was over top.
Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah, the punter. Yeah. Brett
Kern, who, I mean, this is the Pro Bowler we were talking about. 3-time Pro Bowler, was an All-Pro in 2019. They're putting a good 2019 squad together with Anthony Harris and Brett Kern, but
I think Linval Joseph made the Pro Bowl that year.
Yeah. Kern, pretty good punter, I mean, historically, and if there's one position where the skills don't get sapped quite as quickly, it's punter. What do you think? Do you think this is just a short-term move, or if he plays well, however long Aaron Siposs is out, do you think he could just keep this job for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not convinced Siposs is going to be back this year.
Okay.
I mean, it sounded pretty. I mean, Nick never says anything is serious unless the guy's like, on a wheelchair or something, in a wheelchair. But for him to come out and say, it's more serious than we expected, that tells you I don't think he's coming back. I mean, there's only 4 games left plus postseason. So I would think Brett Kern is the guy for the rest of this year. And man, they're lucky again. They're lucky he was out on the street. Another former Bronco.
But long time ago.
But yeah, he's been with the Titans since 2010. Career average is right around 46, which is pretty good. His career net. So look at this. You can't see this at home. Pro Football Reference has his net at 32.9. That's obviously wrong.
Yeah.
Because he's never had a net under 39. But yeah, I mean, you got to see him. You never know what you have. The guy's 36, so 35 or 36. What is he? 36. He'll be 37 in a couple months. But yeah, Siposs has played better this year, but I'd have no problem keeping Brett Kern over Aaron Sipas if he punts well down the stretch.
Yeah, and that wouldn't surprise me one bit. They have to figure out the operation, but I mean, Kern's been doing this for 14 years, so you think he's going to be fine. You just figure it out. Britton Covey was able to get the snap and hold it in the last game, so Brett Kern ought to be able to.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. 395 career inside the 20. That's not bad. Only 58 touchbacks. That's insane. Look at his touchback to inside the 20 numbers. It's crazy. He's my favorite player.
You just got real excited for some punter snap.
But look at here's his touchbacks since 2015. His inside the 20 to touchbacks 34-1, 32-4, 28-5, 39-3, 37-2, 22-3, and 18-1 last year.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Good directional punter.
That too. Yeah, I mean, because look, field position, let's be honest, has been an issue for this team.
Part of me was hoping they'd just not have a punter. Just go for it.
Nick would like that.
I think he would.
Nick's like, oh, this is great. We don't have our punters here. We can just go for it on fourth and 26.
Why'd you pick those numbers?
It's just what I thought of. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, with the way this defense is playing, if you get a punter who can pin teams down to the 8, the 10, the 15, it's gonna be tough to score.
Yeah. I solid signing. He was, at least from the punting experts, he was the top guy available. I heard Pat McAfee raving about how good he is. So we'll see. I mean, look, when they get in the playoffs, one big punt could change a game.
So
we kind of joke around about the punter now, but it could really matter.
Yeah, and we wish Aaron Sipas. He got hurt on a hustle play.
It was a great play. It was a play that most punters don't even attempt to make. Yeah, it's just a shame he got hurt. I think he probably was out of bounds when he got hit. It was quick.
Yeah,
it's tough to, it doesn't take away the injury either.
Same. Yeah, it's just like Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, new guys.
We'll
get to chat with them. Well, one new guy. We'll get to chat with them hopefully on Wednesday. But we wanted to talk about the defensive line a little bit. They are playing at such a high level, and there have been moments this year where they haven't. I think that's fair to say. But the last few weeks, it's hard to argue with the results. And now they have 5 players with 6+ sacks, first time in franchise history.
Yeah. Yeah, they could have 3 double-digit sack guys. And
hey, they could have more.
They could have 4. Sweaty could get there. What's amazing to me is that Gannon and Tracy Rocker are making it all work. They're getting each guy enough snaps to be effective, but not too many to wear them down. And to have a rotation of 9 guys, that's not easy to do. But they're doing it, and they just keep bringing waves of guys. And you see how by the end of games, they're just overpowering offensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
They're so good at the end of games because you got a guy who's played, I think, what did BG play, 29?
Yeah.
On Sunday. It's more than he had been playing, but it's still not very many.
Well, it was so many because
they
were up so big.
Right.
Reddick played a ton, actually, which is kind of weird.
Yeah. So it's a different guy each game, and there's just so many guys. You just can't block all these guys. And, and they're the balance between keeping it's not easy to keep everyone happy when you have that many guys, and they're finding ways to do it. And I talked to Linval about that, and he said, you have every guy in our room just wants to win. So we're all okay with whatever our role is. And I don't think that's easy to find. And that's where Howie gets credit for, he's always talked about fitting in and culture and winning guys and character people is just as important as talent. And I think that's what we're seeing here.
Yeah, and wins solve so many of those problems. And that's even like we talk about the receivers not getting a ton of, like the running back. Like there are so many players who obviously want more opportunities, but you're not going to be complaining in a winning locker room. Even if you feel that way inside, you better not let it out ever, because then your teammates will really be pretty quick to put you in your place. So yeah, it's working really well. I'm a little curious to see what happens with Jordan Davis. Played 6 snaps a couple weeks ago, played 15 snaps in that last game. Asked Gannon about it on Tuesday. He said he expects that to continue to rise. I'm curious about whenever they think, all right, he's fully back from that injury and the conditioning's right. What's the split look like between him and Linval Joseph?
It's a good
Because
question.
Linval is still a starter. He's started the last couple games.
He's playing really well.
He's playing really well. But you have
Yeah.
Jordan Davis.
Yeah.
Do you think they keep rolling this with Linval with the ones? At times, I think in that first game we saw those two lined up next to each other, which is fun to think about. Can Jordan play other positions? He's so athletic. I think he can, but he hasn't done it this year, really.
Yeah, and then the 4-week layoff set him back. I don't know. I think I'd like to see that. Yeah, definitely. But I'm not changing anything right now.
So you just roll with Linval with the ones?
I would.
Okay.
I wouldn't change a thing because they're playing at such a high level. That D line room. Listen to this, Dave. 16 Pro Bowls, 4 All Pros, 4 Super Bowl champions, 333.5 sacks, 71 seasons, 1,020 games played, and 1 Super Bowl strip sack of Tom Brady. That's your D line room.
I have a serious question. It's not going to sound like a serious question.
Okay.
Did you include Robert Quinn in those numbers?
I did not.
Okay.
I couldn't morally and ethically do that.
I didn't know.
Plus,
he would
boost
raise
it
it
up
quite
a little
a bit.
But he's hurt, and I don't know when he's coming back, so I didn't include it.
Okay. Because the sack numbers alone would that'd be a big jump.
I thought about it.
Okay.
But I'm not mentioning him in the story, so
okay.
Yeah, I didn't think.
We got robbed of this Robert Quinn revenge game on Sunday.
Yeah.
It's funny though because that was when they made that trade. I was bullish on it. I thought he still had something left. I thought, okay, he's going to be that extra boost they need. And since then, BG has come on so strong, and Josh Sweat has come on so strong. It's like they've filled in for what I thought they were going to get from Robert Quinn.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter that he hasn't
done
anything, and now he's hurt.
What we thought we were going to get from Barnett. What's interesting is out of that group of 9 in the rotation, 5 of them are ones. BG, Sue, Fletch, Reddick, and Jordan Davis obviously were all first-round picks. Joseph was a 2. Hargrave and Milton were 3s, and Sweat was a 4. So they're all, 4 is not a super high pick, but they were all draft picks. They were, there's no late-round picks or undrafted guys. They were all, pretty highly regarded coming out. Sweat to me is finally playing the way I envisioned him playing. I know, like we've talked about this. You like him more than I do, but
he's played this way all year.
But he's finishing now.
Mm-hmm.
He's finishing.
He didn't have the all right. He is finishing, but he's getting an opportunity to finish too.
Reddick was saying, I talked to all these guys about the way the D line's playing. Reddick said, we're so competitive with each other. Like, he's like, there'll be a play where like there's 3 guys that could get the sack. And we're like, look at each other. Like, I'm getting there first.
I told you a couple of weeks ago talking to Reddick after the game.
Oh yeah.
And I asked him about those plays because it looked like a race to the quarterback between you and Josh. And he goes, bleeping sweaty. It feels that way sometimes, though. The way they're abusing some of these tackles.
Yeah.
Josh Sweat saw Andrew Thomas on Sunday. Andrew Thomas is no slouch. Andrew Thomas is really good, and he got the best of him. I had 1 sack, but he could have had more. Like, he was consistently beating him with pressure, and that's impressive.
Yeah, and we talked about the great defenses in Eagles history, and I think the team record for sacks is 61 or 60. I think it's 62 in 89.
This is the second most through 13 games.
Yeah. But they're on. It's tough because there's 17 games. So if you break the records, like 17 games, but
eventually it won't matter.
Yeah, but it'd be a while before.
Yeah,
we say in a 17 game season, but it's still look. They're going to end up with like 60 sacks. That's a hell of a lot of sacks.
Yeah, lead the league. And it's funny this week.
Up 1 on the Cowboys.
Yeah, they're playing a team that just doesn't sack the quarterback. Just doesn't do it.
That doesn't sack the quarterback?
Yeah. The Bears have like no sacks.
Yeah. They don't have much of anything.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit. We're really teasing this Bears preview that we're really going to do in the next podcast.
Yeah.
They stink. You got anything else in this D-line? I know you're like flipping through stats here. I don't want you to know.
No, I'm not. I'm just looking. I think they've lost 6 in a row, right? The Bears.
Mm-hmm.
Who'd they beat? They beat the Patriots in Foxborough. They beat the Texans by 3. They beat the 49ers on opening day. by 9.
Yeah.
Weird things happen opening day.
Yeah, it's before anyone realizes they're good or they stink.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. What a weird score that is. But I think one thing about Philly is that Eagles fans like. I think I don't know if they're unique, but it's rare. Eagles fans like when the defense is on the field, when the defense is good. And I think it's almost as fun watching, as much fun as it is watching Jalen and Miles and AJ and Devontae, this offense. When the defense is on the field and it's 38 and it's 3rd and 8, you're like, something fun's going to happen here. It's like you just know it. And that's rare to have a defense as much, exciting to watch as the offense.
Yeah, but they're not.
I think they are.
Okay.
I knew you were going to disagree.
Yeah, I'd rather watch Jalen out there. I'd rather watch the MVP quarterback. The freak show receivers. And
I like watching
top tight end.
I like watching defense.
Okay.
As well. I like them both.
All right. Are you good?
Yeah.
All right. Opioid. Oh, I'm sorry. Have a totally tubular 80s New Year's Eve at Rivers with Morris Day and the time December 30th. Awesome 80s New Year's Eve party, bodacious bonus drawings, and more. Rewind to the 80s at Rivers Casino, Philadelphia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
It's the Nissan Thrill of the Drive event. So gift yourself what you really want this holiday season and shop your local Nissan store or visit nissanusa.com today. Just like the holidays, these offers won't last.
Opioid addiction is a national public health crisis. The Someone You Know podcast from the Independence Blue Cross Foundation offers inspiring stories that challenge stigma, offer hope, and humanize the disease of addiction. Download the new season 3 of the Someone You Know on all major podcast platforms. Rube, this team 12-1, and we've talked about this before, but it feels different than a lot of successful teams that we've seen recently because they're doing it from start to finish. In 17, it was like everyone got hurt, everyone counted them out, and it felt like they were playing with house money. This year, it's not going to feel like that. It doesn't feel like that.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think it's so hard. I mean, they were undefeated for quite a long time. They lost to Washington, and I think there was a sense among a lot of people. All right, now they're going to come back down to earth, and they've won 4 straight since then, and that's tough to do. It's not like Washington discovered any path to beat them. They just beat themselves in that game with turnovers. So I give them so much credit for bouncing back from that, winning their next 4, and really closing in on that number 1 seed. The 538 has them now like 50 at like 87% or 89% for the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
So which they could lock up as soon as a week from Sunday. So I really, and we're in the locker room every day, and I really appreciate how little this team is affected by their record and their success. And I don't think a lot of teams are out there celebrating at 12-1 and getting in the playoffs. But I do think this team has a rare focus. Comes right from Nick, from day 1 of training camp or OTAs. He's preaching. It's all about the process. It's all about today, making today count. Every minute, every meeting, every rep, every film session, and if you focus on that, and don't worry about the big picture, then the big picture will take care of itself. And it's a message I think every coach has a version of, but for some reason he gets through. It gets through with him to his players, and they really buy in.
I think it's leadership. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, and Jalen is a huge part of that. I don't think anyone buys into that message more than Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, buys into it and helps deliver it
as
well. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And having guys like BG, Fletch, and Kelsey around who've been to the top of the mountain and know what it takes to get there. And other guys are going to listen. The guys who haven't made it there are going to listen. There's a lot of guys who, won Super Bowls on this team, and it's kind of similar to 17.
Yeah, they brought in some other pieces.
Corey Graham's and the Chris Long, and some guys who had that kind of success. LeGarrette, yeah, definitely. But I think I think it's so easy to let success kind of change how you do things and who you are, and that's when you stop having success. And we see it all the time, but this team just doesn't do that. And it goes right to the top. It goes to the staff. goes to the leaders on the team, and without that guidance and leadership and kind of even keel flat line, you're not 12-1.
I think one of the things that impresses me so much about this team is how good they've been at correcting from wins. I think back to before the season when Jason Kelsey went on that rant about expectations, that expletive-filled rant. But one of the things he said in that kind of stuck with me, and it was about grading the tape differently after a win because you're kind of looking at it through these rose-colored glasses. And this team, it's like the opposite. And I asked Nick Sirianni about it maybe a month or so ago, and his answer to me was really interesting because he basically said that he finds it easier to correct after a win because he can be really hard on them and they'll be okay with it. Whereas like after a loss, it almost feels like piling on. Everyone knows we lost the game and there's all this pressure. But after a win, these guys are so hungry that you're able to say, yeah, we won, but look at this play or look at this misassignment. And it was an interesting perspective on it because it's one I don't think I'd ever really given much credence to, but there's kind of a lot of proof here that that's what works for this team.
Well, they don't really have any opportunities to make corrections after losses, so they better.
It's funny, even their loss, it was like, yeah, maybe don't turn the football over. All right, break.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't turn the ball over, they win, and they might win double digits. Yeah, that's the. I'm really fascinated by Nick's ability to, and from his very first presser, he talked about connecting and.
Maybe don't bring up the first presser. Maybe start with the second presser.
No, but
and work your way forward.
He might not have been super smooth or whatever, but the message was there that it's really important for him to connect with guys and know them as people. And it's all this stuff sounded corny to us, and kind of high schoolish, but it works. He makes it work.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got veterans who, guys have been in the league 13 years who buy right in, and and then the rest of the team just kind of follows. Without that, you don't have this kind of success, and it's amazing to me that he's in such a short time. He's really kind of just won over this franchise, and this, you can see how. I mean, he wasn't really even a serious candidate until they talked to him. You could see how he could have
interviewed with one team.
Yeah, blown him away in his interview. And one thing Jeff Lurie's really good at is hiring head coaches.
He got this one right.
Pretty good track. He got them all right.
Yeah.
I mean, Chip went bad because Chip wanted to be GM. I think that was
No, he didn't. He told us he didn't want to.
Oh yeah, he did say that, but he lied. He had a tendency to do that. But
is Nick coach of the year?
He'd get my vote.
Me too.
Yeah, because some of the guys who were candidates kind of fallen off
a little bit, like Kevin O'Connell, Minnesota.
Brian
Dable's fallen off a little bit. Vrabel fallen off a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike McDaniel.
Yeah. Yeah. You look for consistency there.
I'm looking at some of the names here, and it's like, it's Sirianni, O'Connell, Robert Saleh. They've fallen off. McDaniel. Mike McCarthy isn't winning this. Why is Mike McCarthy even listed?
Who's had a great year is Harbs. And they're 9-4. How many games has Lamar Jackson played?
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know how they're winning, but
he's a long shot here, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah. He certainly.
I mean, Zach Taylor, if the Bengals end up finishing this the way they're looking right now.
He's a pretty good coach.
He's a good coach. Like, he's right. You would think he's rising, and Joe Burrow is now firmly in the MVP conversation.
He is. Yeah, he is. Yeah.
If the season ended right now, would the Eagles have the MVP and Coach of the Year? I think they would. At least they would deserve it.
Who votes for Coach of the Year? That's an AP thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So much of it is if you have writers voting, it's like who's good to the writers. It shouldn't come down to that. That's why T.O. didn't get in the Hall of Fame the first year. I'm a writer. I don't like him. He didn't give me an interview. That's why the writer shouldn't do it.
Who should?
I don't know.
Yeah, everyone always says that, but it's like, all right, well, who should?
Like maybe a panel of Hall of Famers, former coaches. I don't know. Mm-hmm. That's a topic for another day.
Yeah, but it's always one that bothers me though, because like I understand the system's not great for all this voting stuff, but like
I just don't like the fact that people can hold a grudge. That's what kept T.O. out of the Hall of Fame. I personally hate T.O., but I would have voted for him.
Yeah, I get that.
You know, I mean, he's the biggest jerk I've ever met, but you can't argue with the production. Not the biggest jerk, second biggest.
Who's the first?
I can't say.
Is it, you mean like a football player?
No,
Oh, okay.
no.
Is present company excluded?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
I think they would have MVP and Coach of the Year.
Very well could. I think
Does Brandon Graham have a shot at comeback player of the year?
he does.
He has 8.5 sacks after tearing his Achilles at 34 years old.
I really think so. I was thinking about that this morning.
I mean, Saquon for a long time, but he's tailed off now. He's been dealing with that stinger, and the numbers haven't been great.
Miles going to pass him for NFC rushing lead Sunday.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. He probably will.
He will.
Okay.
I'm saying he will.
Okay.
What else we got?
I'm trying to think about who else would win.
Comeback?
Yeah, I'm looking at like some odds here.
Who do they list?
I haven't found them yet. But
we're in a sports book. It's probably up on the board here somewhere.
Oh, Gino. What's he coming back from?
Yeah, just
being bad. Saquon, McCaffrey, Derrick Henry. I mean,
Eagles shut down.
I mean, it's rare for a reserve defensive player, but like, interesting case for Graham. He probably won't win it.
Gino's having a really good year.
Yeah, but what's he coming back from?
Being a backup.
He did it to himself. It was bad.
But I don't think. I mean, hasn't been a starter since 2014. People love that kind of story.
Yeah, but
I wouldn't vote for him. But
he's the good story of the year.
But like, what do you see coming back as being? Like just from an injury, from a bad year?
Injury or hardship?
Not from a bad year.
No.
I think that's how most people look at it.
The way I look at it?
No, the way like who was bad and this year was good.
Who was really? I think it normally goes to an injured player or a formerly injured player.
Yeah, I think you see a lot of guys get consideration who play better than they ever had, who are bad and play well. How about Matt Collins?
Actually, former Eagle note. Did you see the Nelson Aguilar thing from the Patriots game? Devontae Parker clearly concussed.
Oh yeah.
Clearly concussed.
I saw that.
They're about to run a play.
How did they miss that?
No idea. They're about to run a play, and Nelly, credit to him, he starts waving his arms, takes a knee, gets him to stop it before his teammate
had to play
dies on the field.
I
mean, the NFL hires people to watch this.
Yeah, they have an independent neurologist in the booth. It's upstairs.
They have a spotter,
right?
yeah. That's his job.
I mean, we could see it. He was stumbling around. It was horrible.
Yeah. Credit to Nelly, though.
Yeah, good for him.
I don't think a lot of players do that.
Probably right.
I mean, so I give Nelly a ton of credit for that.
Yeah.
You got anything else on this whole handling success topic?
No.
No. The Bears. And we'll break down the matchup a little bit, but what stands out most when you're talking about this Bears team?
They have one weapon, and it's the quarterback as a runner, and he's as good as anybody who's ever done it. I mean, he's so fast, he's so elusive, and I think he's got like 3 50-yard touchdowns this year. I mean, it's crazy, but they don't have a lot of other ways to beat you, and I just don't think you can beat the Eagles or even keep it close if you don't have other weapons. So it's kind of a weird team to play because they're so different. They don't run the ball particularly well, other than him.
They have a few guys.
I mean, Herbert's okay. Montgomery's okay.
Pretty good.
Montgomery's a decent receiver, but it's not an explosive big play offense. Again, once the Eagles get up 21-6, it's over because the Bears don't want to throw.
Yeah, and I think Fields has the ability to. It's just he's in a tough spot.
Yeah, I mean, who are their receivers?
Well, they have Mooney, they have St. Brown,
Equanimous Brown, St. Brown. His full name is Equanimous Tristan Amotep J. St. Brown.
Okay,
interesting. Oh, yeah. He's Amon-Ra St. Brown's brother. That makes sense. St. Brown is not the most common last name.
Yeah. I mean, they clearly don't have a ton of weapons.
Yeah. Dante Pettis. Yeah, their tight end's okay, Komet.
Mhm.
But I think it's they lost 6 in a row for a reason, and the Eagles seem to take care of business against teams like the Bears. I think they'll win big.
Yeah, Eagles minus 8.5. I think.
I don't know. Look on the wall.
No, that's the latest I saw was 8.5. It started off lower than that. It should. I mean, I think it might hit double digits by the time game time rolls around.
Yeah, I mean, I could see the Bears keeping it close, and they do. They do play most teams close. But lately, I mean, they lost to the Jets by 21. They lost to the Packers last week by 10 or 9. Lost to the Cowboys by 20. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're dangerous as long as that quarterback is healthy and running around.
He's fun to watch.
He is. He is.
I feel bad for him. I feel like he's just in this bad situation.
Yeah. I don't feel bad for anyone.
No?
No.
That was mean. You don't feel bad for anyone?
No.
Ever?
No, I mean, like football players who are making millions of dollars. I mean, I don't feel bad when they aren't in a good situation.
Yeah. Money solves all problems.
I didn't say that. I just don't feel bad for them.
I feel bad for him because
would
I
Justin
think if
Fields
he's...
feel bad for you that you have to work with me on a podcast?
I hope so. If I told him the situation, I think he would feel something.
They've lost 9 out of 10. They haven't won a home game since week 3.
Been a long time.
Yeah.
Wanted to end this.
I was there for the Fog Bowl.
Were you?
Yeah.
Can I ask you about that?
Yeah.
What do you remember?
I remember 2-minute warning, first half. The Bears were already up 17-9, and we thought the press box was on the other side of the stadium. It's on the lake side now. It was on the other side. I guess it would be the west side, and we thought there was a car on fire because we saw this what looked like smoke or steam coming up on the south end of the stadium, over the stadium, and then within like 90 seconds, the whole stadium was enveloped in fog, and we're like, how are we going to play the second half? And within minutes, they said the media can go down on the field for the second half, and we all went down on the field because you couldn't see anything.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so they let us on the field. I don't think that would happen anymore. That wouldn't happen now.
That's really cool though, because like I've never been like that. Just doesn't happen. You don't get on the field during games.
Back then, we were allowed on the field after the 2-minute warning. In the second half, you're allowed on the field.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, but we watched the whole second half, and I never realized until that day how hard guys hit.
Yeah, that's what we always hear is like the sound is different down there.
Yeah, it is, and you could feel them. And I never forget. You could see farther across the field than the length of the field. I just remember, like, we could see the other sideline, but we couldn't see more than like maybe 20 yards down the field each way. And I remember Randall dropping back and just chucking the ball into the cloud, and then a second later you hear a roar, and then the roar gets closer because you can see Vesty Jackson, as a Bears safety, was running toward us with the ball, and he had somehow intercepted Randall without probably even seeing him.
Do you think they should have suspended the game?
No. And Brayman was the owner of the Eagles. Norman Brayman was actually in the shower stall. There was no water running. That's where he was doing a post-game interview, and
Thank you for clarifying that.
He ripped Norman Brayman in the shower. It's not an image you want to see.
Maybe give him a minute, guys.
So he was blasting the league and the commissioner, saying that the game should have been postponed. And I remember when we left Soldier Field after the game, it was clear. It's clear as could be. It just kind of rolled in. Everyone was calling meteorologists to find out why it happened. The ground was warmer than usual, and you're right on the lake. I mean, it had to do with the temperature of the water.
What was the dew point that day?
The dew point was 71.6 to, let me check, pro dew point reference. It was wild. It was a wild day. But they lost the game because they had 11 possessions inside the Chicago 35 without scoring a touchdown. Not because of the fog.
Yeah. Almost hard to do that.
It is.
It's going to be cold in Chicago this weekend.
And I think, Anthony Toney committed a penalty that wiped out a touchdown. I'm pretty sure. It was a while ago. It was a crazy experience, though. But yeah, it's going to be. I'm sure it'll be cold and windy, and that's another factor. I mean, that
the wind whips off the lake.
It does. Yeah. Or as Jerome Brown said, man, That it was cold out there. That wind coming off the ocean.
At some point, maybe. If it's,
Yeah, a little farther,
a little
but
farther.
a little farther away. But yeah, it's a great atmosphere for football, and there it's going to be loud and cold, football weather.
Yeah, I hate what they did to Soldier Field, though.
Yeah, kind of looks like an ELO album cover.
It looks like Soldier Field landed in the middle of a spaceship.
Yeah, it's a shame, and I know they're trying to get a new stadium, and they spent a fortune remodeling it.
Yeah, it's a shame because like you go to Lambeau and you're like, oh, they did something to this classic stadium, but it still works and it still feels like a good place to watch a football game. Like the modern mixed with the old school at Soldier Field just doesn't work for me, at least.
Yeah, they botched that. You know, what's interesting is they started that renovation right after the Eagles playoff game there in 2003, like immediately after, because they played in Champaign in 2004. And we actually played there. The Eagles played. We played a game in Champaign, regular season.
Didn't that get sticky?
Sticky?
In Champaign?
It was fun. It was in the University of Illinois Stadium. And but yeah, we were leaving after the 2003 playoff game, the Hugh Douglas Jim Miller game. We're leaving, and the workers were already tearing down the stadium.
Wow.
That night, and yeah, so that's when they renovated it. But it's a cool place. I like the fact you can walk there from downtown. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
But
and it's in a great spot.
It is. It is
when it's warm.
Yeah, it'll be cold.
It's gonna be cold on Sunday. The last thing we wanted to talk about, Mike Leach, unfortunately, died last night, Monday night. Longtime college football coach, but had a tie with the Eagles. And I remember you told me about it one time, and I couldn't remember what it was. What is that connection?
Yeah, he was friends with Marty Morningweg, the longtime Eagles, various titles, but offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach. And Mike was between jobs. I think it was after Texas Tech and before Washington State, I believe.
Okay.
I think he didn't coach that year. And that summer, he came up to Lehigh for a few days because he wanted to learn the Andy Reid passing offense, which, he ended up throwing 98% of the time by the time he got to Mississippi State. And he was up there for a few days at practice, and he would always come out of the field house, and really good-natured guy. He liked the media. He always talked to us and on the way out, and, ask, about something we saw at practice or something. And couldn't have been nicer. But I always thought it was interesting. And I remember talking to Doug Peterson about this, like Doug, Howie, Andy, and him went out to dinner in Center Valley at that Shula Steakhouse that's right by the practice fields. And he was asking all these questions about Andy's offense. And he went back and installed some of that at Washington State. And that's the offense that Andre Dillard played in. So when the Eagles drafted him in 2019, when Doug was the coach, Doug was running a lot of the stuff Andy had run, and Dillard knew a lot of it from college, where he played for Mike Leach, who learned it from Andy. So I just thought that was a kind of a whole cool
very cyclical
circle of football. And every coach has those kind of stories. Everybody's coached at some point with everyone else and picked up something from them. And but yeah, he was a good guy. It's sad he was only 61. Yeah, definitely our hearts go out to his friends and family, and really sad for the whole football world. Really interesting guy.
You told me he was friends with Marty. I was like, what were those conversations like? Marty's just off in his own world, and then Mike Leach is talking about pirates or whatever else he's, like, it had to be fun to watch.
Some of the videos of Mike Leach press conferences are
wild,
unbelievably funny. Like, he would get onto rants about, like one year at Washington State, he picked the captain because he had done well on The Price is Right or something. Like, that's how he picked the captain of the team. Like that, kind of like that.
I like that too. All right, if you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast and you like it, please go ahead, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. We appreciate all that. We're good. All right, we'll be back with you guys later in the week. This has been Eagle Eye, presented by Nissan, live here at Rivers Casino Philadelphia at the Sports Book. We'll talk to you soon.